Are you ready to step into a world of jaw-dropping moves?
Martial arts movies have dazzled the globe from east to west for generations in exciting, shocking, and even comedic ways. Some of the fun of watching these films is comparing the cultural narrative differences in how their action is shot and edited, and how their stories are theatrically displayed. Despite their impressive stunts, dazzling sets, and great feats that immortalized famous stars, some fights are undeniably ridiculous. Ridiculousness is not measured by a lack of quality, but rather how far-fetched or nonsensical the circumstances of the fight are. This does not detract from the film as a whole, but sometimes requires the audience to just lean in and enjoy the ride and not think about it too much. These fights will be ranked based on the context of their ridiculousness, with the latter likely being more intentional rather than unintentional. 10. Treetop floating earns chuckles and Oscars in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. To be clear, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is a masterpiece that spellbound global audiences and boosted Chow Yun-fat, Michelle Yeoh, and Ziyi Zhang to Hollywood recognition. Ang Lee directed a tapestry of a fantastical China full of intrigue, romance, and bittersweet tragedy. This film also was never shy to make full use of cable work, especially for one of the film's most artistically beautiful fights. High in the treetops, Chow Yun-fat and Ziyi Zhang float run across a lush bamboo forest with swords. The context of the fight is emotionally charged and the setting is breathtaking, but for general Western audiences and used to extensive cable work, this scene garnered some stifled chuckles amid the genuine beauty of the moment. That being said, no one can chuckle at the 4 Academy Awards that year for Best Foreign Language Film, Best Cinematography, Best Art Direction, and Best Original Score. 9. Jackie Chan fights an army of pirates in Project A. For those unfamiliar with Jackie Chan's early career films in China, Project A is a classic full of incredible group fighting work and an extremely pulpy and fun plotline. Luckily for Chan, he has always leaned into comedic fighting, which is nonetheless impressive, and his stunt fighting colleagues show up in spades for this spectacle. In the final fight, Jackie Chan's disguised character finally reveals himself, by removing a fake pencil mustache, to help his infiltrating comrades fight a powerful pirate syndicate in their lair that feels like a set right out of Mortal Kombat. The final fight against the captain is full of sword fighting and Jackie Chan's signature hand-to-hand fighting with props. A notable prop shtick he uses is a Persian rug to keep the pirate from getting back on his feet that is a hilarious moment. 8. The Legend of Drunken Master's inebriated fights are wild fun. Jackie Chan's The Legend of Drunken Master is a staple for fans who love his more slapstick fighting performances of Jackie Chan. The Drunken Master films were the films that truly skyrocketed Jackie Chan to stardom and built his name as a martial arts action hero. Chan plays an indignant young man whose pacifist father forbids his mischievous and cocky fighting. Unfortunately, his style and inebriation to wield it is the only thing standing in the way of artifact-robbing criminals. Although impressive throughout, one of the most comically ridiculous fights from The Legend of Drunken Master are out in a market square where Chan fights several assailants whilst his relatives toss him booze to keep him drunk enough to keep fighting well. Chan's mix of chugging various spirits whilst fending off opponents is a hilarious spinning plates act that is as impressive as it is ridiculous. Of course, this legendary character would need some serious stomach pumping in reality if this is the only way they could keep up excelling in their style. 7. The carriage fight in Mr. Nice Guy was hilarious. Jackie Chan's Mr. Nice Guy is full of wild and crazy moments, including driving a massive construction vehicle into a mansion. However, when it comes to martial arts fights, one of its most nonsensical moments is during a chase out of a mall by thugs when he decides to take a horse-drawn carriage as a getaway vehicle. The city is full of faster vehicles, including taxis that can be quickly hailed. This is grasping at straws though, because then there wouldn't be fun stunts and hijinks in a unique combat setting that Jackie Chan so generously delivers time and time again. As the carriage gallops through the busy streets, Chan fights off assailants who are trying to climb the carriage. Not until later films do we see Jackie Chan do stunts with animals in Hollywood films, so this is one of the earlier examples. 6. The final fight in The Karate Kid is classic but unlikely. The original The Karate Kid film inspired generations in North America to take up the martial arts, but with varied results during the 80s fitness fads. Even so, the franchise's opening film definitely had a lot wrong with it that just got overlooked due to a general lack of knowledge from American audiences. The final fight in The Karate Kid sticks out as a sore thumb in this respect. Of course, as epic as it was, the drama build-up of LaRusso and Lawrence facing off for the final point while LaRusso's leg is severely injured is nothing short of a movie magic miracle. For an injury as severe as LaRusso's, most judges would not allow a competitor to continue under so much damage as it hinders the safety of the match. Furthermore, the chances of successfully landing a crane kick against a fully able opponent without some counter from them is quite unlikely. Often, kumite matches for underage children require an amount of control and calibration for strikes, which is thrown out the window completely for cinematic drama. 5. Kill Bill's Crazy 88 fight is pure anime craziness. It's no surprise that Quentin Tarantino's plethora of Pan-Asian martial arts inspirations that spawned the Kill Bill films would border and supersede the absurd with their sensationalized fights and choreography. The most notable of these is the multimedia bloodfest, which is the fight against the Crazy 88. The bride faces off against 88 assassins and a deadly killer schoolgirl with only her sword and her skill. Granted, this fight is supposed to be the pure spectacle that wows the martial arts movie lovers and anime fans alike as it switches into an animated sequence for a bit. Of course, its main absurdity lies in the bride's ability to not be swarmed by these assassins, but in classic martial arts fashion, they often seem to attack in an orderly one-by-one most of the time. 4. Legend of the Eight Samurai is a wild mix of styles. Often, Japanese samurai films don't get included in the martial arts genre. Perhaps it's the feudal-era style and heavier use of weapons and armor. Nevertheless, martial arts plays a large part in their storytelling. Samurai films are full of political drama, betrayal, and razor-sharp sword duels, but Legend of the Eight Samurai errs on the side of fantasy and gothic horror to create a truly absurd and unique film starring martial arts legend Sonny Chiba and a very young Hiroyuki Sanada. Legend of the Eight Samurai is a fantasy film with colorful sets and intense violence that seems to parallel the dark fantasy tones of Hollywood classics like Conan, the Barbarian, but with much less narrative direction. It's difficult to pinpoint a single fight that is completely nonsensical, yet the intense convolution of the plot in this elaborate fantasy picture makes it hilarious and exhausting to follow. 3. Gymkhana's melding of an Olympic sport and karate is comically absurd. A lot can be ragged on about Gymkhana as the entire film is ridiculous. However, one particular fight against an entire village takes the cake for being nonsensical. The whole film does its darndest to shoehorn some sort of karate with Olympic gymnastics moves, and in this fight in particular, is it ever shoehorned in. An entire village of seemingly certifiable folk that resemble the peasants in Monty Python's Holy Grail attacks the karate gymnast hero. Although surrounded by sickles and pitchforks, he happens to have a pommel horse placed right in the middle of a small town square. He uses this to his full advantage, gymnastic spinning and kicking peasants who could have easily poked him to death and are instead getting kicked one by one. With a strong drink and some sweet snacks, this film is a riot, but it's definitely not meant to be taken seriously by any means. 2. All of Kung Pao. Enter the Fist is intentionally ridiculous fun. This parody of every martial arts film under the sun aims to please with its completely shameless series of nonsensical fights. From fighting cows to punching entire torsos to using rodents as nunchucks, a fan of the genre will not be disappointed by the sheer amount of clever and obvious parody that is presented. This panto of pandemonium had the budget to play on even the more elaborate set pieces many martial arts films boasted. This was explored as far as buying the rights to some old footage of an actual kung fu film for a scene and overdubbing it with completely out of context dialogue that builds a completely different and absurd story from its original film. 1. Inspired by everything and more, Kung Fury's climax leans into its craziness. Although not given a wide release other than the internet and select theaters, the indie film phenomenon of utterly awesome silliness that is Kung Fury includes one of the wildest and most nonsensical martial arts fights ever. For those who still doubt its legitimacy, at the top of this list, this is a film that received ovations at the Cannes Film Festival, somehow. The film climaxes in pure 80s nostalgia as Kung Fury faces off against Hitler and his mega army of Kung fighting drone soldiers. A massive portion of the fight plays out like a side-scroll fighting video game from the parodied era and includes a green screen extravaganza of ridiculous and impossible moves as Kung Fury takes his enemies down in droves. This battle scene eventually is enhanced by his friends coming to back him up, which adds to the absurd chaos as Triceratops shoots crotches, Barbariana Gatling guns, and Thor, yes the god of thunder, blasts away the bad guys. It's safe to say none of it makes sense, and it's perfection.